So we are live now.
Good evening, everyone.
Hi everyone. Today we are here again. Lim Tian and I, we are filming this live video because of political persecution.
So Hui, long time no see. What's up?
So we haven't been posting anything for about 2 months. And then the AGC contacted and say they want us to raise the remaining. I think we have about like $11,000 left to raise. So it's about half the amount that was being raised the past 1 year. And how is life living in a HDB? Because today we are at a secret location. We are at somebody's house at a HDB. And in HDB, right, there is now an increase in property tax. So that is point number one. Property tax has increased, and for a 3-room flat, you need to pay about $300. A 4-room flat, you need to pay about $400, and 5-room flat about $500. And this is excluding, I think there's a 9% GST that we need to pay. So we need to pay 9% GST coming in 2 more days, actually less than 48 hours.
Okay, Lim Tian, any remarks about what Hui has just said?
You know, we are coming to the end of 2023 now, yeah? I really do hope that 2024 will bring better times, my friends. But I have to be honest, I doubt very much. Because as Hui Hui said, in 48 hours or less than that, you are going to have this 9% GST. And as I posted yesterday, and many people have taken pictures, the signs are all up already on hawker stalls and all that, saying that, oh, come 1st of January, we are going to adjust prices by 30 to 50 cents. Now, that is more than 1%, right? And people have always told the government, look here, you raise 1%, it doesn't mean that price increase is only 1%. It is 10, 20% down the line, all right, maybe even 30%. But this government is adamant. You know, at a time when I can see with my own eyes that really retrenchments have started, at quite a furious pace, I would say that. And the world economy is in trouble, all right? China is malfunctioning, all right? I tell you, next year, America will be in deep shit, okay? You are not only going to have a recession, you are going to have a very, very bad recession, maybe even a depression. But does this government care? No. It keeps raising GST, gas prices, electricity prices, transport, property. I don't know what is yet to come. All right. So, my friends, I say this with a tinge of pessimism. I think 2024 is going to be very difficult.
So as Lim Tian say, wow, everywhere price go up. So Hui, your pay got go up.
Apparently, they were supposed to look for job for me because of the AGC, right? So it got directed to the Ministry of Manpower, and then it got directed to Workforce Singapore, and then they got all these like small companies supposed to look for job. And the government said, until now, they haven't got me a single job. And then the government said that our unemployment rate has actually improved from 2022 to 2023. But that is because it dropped by 0.2. And although Singapore has this like unemployment rate or PMET unemployment rate as well as the long-term unemployment rate, but after a certain period of time, they actually classify people as voluntarily unemployment. And for those people who are employed in Singapore, they don't declare what is the underemployment rate in Singapore. Just because someone is employed, it doesn't mean they like the job. And just because someone is employed doesn't mean they are in the correct job. For example, my children go to school. When they go to school, right, there are teachers who are well-versed in Mandarin, in Chinese, and they are teaching English classes. This is point number one. I'm not saying my child's school is like that. I'm saying that there are other schools, and I know specifically who are these people. So if let's say the police, the AGC, or the MOE want to contact me and tell me who are these people, I have a list of them, okay? And not only that, there are people who score very well in mathematics and they are not actually employed as a mathematics teacher. They are employed as an English teacher in Singapore school. So they are not putting the correct people in the correct job. And when they get people to go and look for a job, at the end of the day, they will go to this place called the ATC. which is some trade and commerce association, whereby they will look for job for people. And they don't look for people with the correct skill set. For example, an IT person will be given a job asking you to go and do renovation and do sales. But this is not what this person's expertise is. And why are IT jobs not given to Singaporeans? Because of something called the SICA.
You know, I just want to add on to what Hui Hui has just said. You know, Tean has posted a lot of statistics to show that really in the last few quarters of 2023, correct me if I'm wrong, Tean, but literally the job growth for Singaporeans was zero. All the job growth went to foreigners, all right? Or that is my understanding of the statistics that Tean posted. And I'm shocked. You know, how can we live in a country where you tell the people, oh, we have produced jobs, but then on closer reading, you realize that all the new jobs have gone to the foreigners.
The actual job growth statistics are as follows. Third quarter 2023, 88.1% of the job growth went to foreigners.
So 88.1% of the job growth in the third quarter went to foreigners. I stand corrected. But still, my friends, how can we have a country where the great majority of jobs growth go to foreigners instead of locals, instead of Singaporeans?
Hui, actually, in the second quarter of 2023, 100% of the job growth went to foreigners. So, do you have anything to say?
So apparently, Singapore is also I think Singapore is, maybe it's the only country. If any of you can find any other country, you can leave your comments down below. Singapore is the only country whereby foreigners can come to Singapore as tourists and then look for a job. And after they get a job, they get their E-pass, S-pass, whatever, right? And they stay in Singapore forever. Do you think you can go to any other country, say that, okay, I'm a tourist here, and then after that you start looking for a job? No, you can't do that in other countries. But in Singapore, the government allows that. And because of that, Singaporeans lose their job. And when Singaporeans lose their job, the correct people, Singaporeans who have talent, who are talented and have skill sets and expertise, they are not being employed in the correct job. They are maybe not even being employed at all. So this is the situation that is happening in Singapore. And the government, most recently, there's this propaganda saying that they are paying $10,000 for bus drivers. And a lot of people start leaving comment. But the criteria was that you need to have a bus driving license and you need to have at least 1 year of experiences. So who are the people who will qualify? If any of you remember the bus driver riots or strike, then you should know what the situation in Singapore is.
You see, I mean, just to follow on. Second quarter, 100% of job growth went to foreigners. My friends, I think it is time all of us wake up, all right? You cannot have a government that produces jobs that go entirely to foreigners. Totally unacceptable, all right? You know, Kenneth Jeyaretnam said at the last GE, don't complain, you have voted for the government you want. I sometimes think, maybe I should parrot that line. It is true, because it is no use complaining about GST increase, price increase, and all that, which, by the way, are all levied by this government. Yeah. So what is the solution? And I tell you, someone left a beautiful comment on one of my posts yesterday. He said, we should change our narrative. It should not be, we should vote in more opposition, because that fundamentally doesn't change anything. In fact, what you need if you want a change in direction of your life, the betterment of your life and your children, you need to change government. Think about that.
Hui, in the first quarter of 2023...
No, talking about children, right? So my child, we previously went to try and apply at Sparkle. And recently we went to try and apply at MOE Kindergarten. And MOE Kindergarten has this thing which the government always brag about. They say, we are trying to increase birth rate because we've got this child development account. Do you know that the money inside this child development account will be transferred to some secondary school account and ultimately ends up in your CPF account? And CPF account is only paying us 2.5% in our ordinary account, maybe an average of around 3%. But when they take our CPF money, they are earning like 6% or even higher. Is this ethical of the government? And when they try and tell us that, oh, you know, we want to increase Singapore's birth rate, our birth rate has reached historical low of around 1.0 something.
1.05.
1.04 actually.
4, yeah,
here.
1.04.
It's actually here, 1.04. And for the Chinese in Singapore, our birth rate is 0.8. So Chinese Singaporeans have a birth rate of 0.8, which is way lower than our country's average. So is this how the government is saying that, oh, you know, our population is reproducing itself? When we are not. We are not even reproducing one baby for Chinese Singaporeans.
So Lim Tian, what is Han Hui Hui's birth rate?
Huh?
What is Han Hui Hui's birth
Oh
rate?
wow, Hui Hui is an exception. I think Hui Hui has got 3 children. She is the model example which, if I'm in government, I would be pointing Singaporeans to. I think Singaporeans should be encouraged to have as many children as they want. And you know something, my friends? Why is our TFR so low? It is because a lot of couples do not dare to have children. We have come to the stage where it is so ridiculous. Couples actually do not have the courage to have children because they think of all the costs involved. You know what a government should do in a circumstance like that? We are not a poor country. Over the years, Singaporeans have sacrificed a lot and made this government rich. All right? If I am in government, you know what I want to do? I want to give every Singaporean parent free education, right? From nursery to university. I'm not going to spend money giving foreign students bursaries and scholarships. Okay? I'm going to make sure that their expensive childcare is taken care of. All right? And I am going to make sure that that Singaporean woman who chooses to stay at home to look after the children is given a decent allowance so that she can survive and bring up her children happily. You know, when I had my son, I was lucky. I was fortunate. I was earning good money as a lawyer. And my wife could stay at home and look after my son for 7 years. I want that Singaporean mother to have similar opportunities. It doesn't have to be equivalent, but I want to give her the choice that she can stay at home and look after the child if she wants to.
Han Hui Hui, how
Okay,
old are your 3
before
children?
that, the Prime Minister actually mentioned before. First of all, there was a minister who mentioned that Singaporean parents can buy all kinds of milk. It doesn't have to be expensive milk powder. And the Prime Minister also mentioned that, okay, if you want to have kids, then you know you should try and have your own breast milk. But why are Singaporean mothers working instead of pumping breast milk for their children? So this was what the Prime Minister said in one of his National Day rallies. The question is, the Prime Minister should ask himself, why are you causing Singaporeans so much economic pressure that both parents have to work? Then after that, never mind. There is this thing called childcare that Lim Tian mentioned earlier on. The government brags that, oh, you know, childcare is very affordable, just like how they say housing is affordable in Singapore. So childcare is affordable because there is something called KIFAS, which is Kindergarten Financial Assistance Scheme. However, this KIFAS is only submitted to the government, to the Ministry of Education, to EDDA in January when the child is officially enrolled in the school. Before the child can enroll in the school, the childcare center will actually submit this form. They have to go through this process called, you send the child to school, the registration, the deposit, all this thing. Imagine if you are from a very poor family. Do you have the money to actually send your child to school in the first place? Do you have the money to pay for this deposit to send your child to school? Because this deposit has to be paid in cash. If you don't have this cash in your bank account, in your CDA account, then how are you going to pay for it? There will be people who say, CDA account, government gives you money. Yes, CDA account is also used for healthcare bill. And healthcare bill is so expensive in Singapore, so a lot of parents also use their CDA account to pay for it. So by the time they go to kindergarten, it's most probably wiped out. So when this amount is wiped out, which parent, if you are from a low-income family, can pay for this deposit, which is like a few hundred to few $1,000s, depending on what school you are going for? And this KIFAS application, after submission in January, it will only have an outcome in February. If you are going to enroll in a childcare, in February when you receive this, you will go and apply again in March and receive an outcome in April. So you will have to pay 4 months of deposit as well as monthly fee for a low-income family that has no sum, no cash to pay for all this kind of thing. So does it make sense for people to want to have kids in Singapore? Our total fertility rate will tell the answer that it is 0.8 for Singaporean Chinese.
My friends, let me carry on from where I left off. We cannot have a situation where the TFR for Singaporean Chinese is now 0.8. And I thank Hui Hui for informing me about this. I think it is disastrous. I thought that the TFR was bad enough at 1.04 when, but hear that the TFR for Singaporean Chinese is 0.8. I'm telling you, this is disastrous. But you know what? This government doesn't care. This government thinks that the way to do it is simply to import more foreigners, all right? Import more foreigners to come in, yeah? And in fact, our population has ballooned, yeah? And it's come to a stage where it's so ridiculous now, where, you know, I question, I don't think we have enough hospital beds. Like the recent surge in COVID, you find people struggling to find hospital beds, long queues. I saw a picture of a hospital. I do not know which hospital it was, but patients were having to sleep in semi-open conditions. You know, yes, there was a roof over them, but it was not totally covered, all right? So, and my friends, down the line, we are going to have tremendous socio-economic problems, all right? When local-born Singaporeans are displaced from jobs, their jobs being taken by foreigners. You know, it's not going to take a lot to light the tinderbox, yeah, and for a massive explosion to take place. Okay, I will never go down that route if I'm in government.
And Hui, how old are your 3 children?
My children.
Now,
So the AGC politically persecuted me on 25th November 2022 when my child was 1 month old. So it has been a year now. So my youngest child is 1 year old.
then the other 2 children, how old?
Okay, but now the question is, okay, back to the topic. So now we are here, right? We are at somebody's HDB house. And in HDB right now, there is something that the government is going to increase, which is called the electricity tariff, which has just been increased every quarter. And now they are increasing again. And this time round, the government is going to increase, I think, about 4%. So it's going to be an increase of about $4 or $4 plus for a 4-room flat, which was reported in the news just a few hours ago. Yeah.
And Hui, why you so scared to tell us how old are your the other 2 children?
No, I did.
You didn't, you only said youngest only.
They have to do the calculation because we are encouraging people to do calculation on how the government is taking money away from us and how long it has been that all this political persecution has been ongoing for.
Okay, Lim Tian, you mentioned about long queue for hospital beds, right? Do you know that the criteria for subsidy in public hospitals have changed?
Yes, I was informed about that earlier this year because I have someone in the party, you know, who works in public hospitals, and she told me that every day she was having to field complaints from patients. Whereas previously, as I understand it, Zihian, it was a flat rate, all right? It was a flat rate. But now they means test you. And so for some people, that charge now has, you know, I don't know, increased from $30 or $40, I do not know the exact figures, to like something like $67 or $70, all right? And that's just for consultation, yeah? So I have been told that fees have also gone up. And yesterday I made a post, I took a graph or a chart out of the Straits Times, mainstream media, that suggested that your cost of going to a GP, going to a doctor, has increased by something like 22%. All right. So, my friends, I hope all of us have this awakening. We cannot go on like that because I do not know how the Singaporean government, the PAP government, is thinking that Singaporeans are a bottomless pit who can absorb all these hikes in fees and charges, all the time.
Unreal.
Okay, talking about hospital, right? Okay, so you asked me how old is my child? Okay, so my first child's pregnancy, we found it out in 2018. And I went through both the private route and the public route, which was written in the book called Yearning for Justice. So going through the private route and the public route, I actually went through both hospitals this year as well. The waiting time at KK Hospital, which is Singapore's only woman restructured hospital, women and children restructured hospital. There will be people leaving comments saying that there are other places like so-called this like EA and Tom something. Okay, we are not going to name because all these are actually private companies. They are not restructured companies. They are not like restructured hospital whereby they belong to the government. We are talking about government hospital for women and children. There is only one, which is KK Hospital. And the waiting duration time, which was reported in the news again, is 3 to 8 hours. And the government created this propaganda because there was this foreigner who came to Singapore and started scolding the police officers. So they created this propaganda to say that, waiting 3 to 8 hours is considered normal. Considered normal when you're trying to save lives. And not only that, this is for A and E, and they actually have this waiting area over there. This waiting area itself takes about 3 to 8 hours. And when you go in, if let's say you have someone who actually chop off their legs and is bleeding, and you really need somebody to come and like the person who come and let the person go to sleep, go and recover, get the painkiller, you need to wait for as long as about 12 hours, which is half a day. So imagine your whole leg is broken. It takes half a day, 12 hours in order to fix your leg back. So for people who are leaving comments saying that, this is impossible, you can send this video and send it to KK Hospital Ministry of Health and ask them, why does it take 12 hours for somebody to come if let's say you have a broken leg? Because this kind of incident did happen before. And this is the waiting time. And for you to check into KK Hospital, there's a registration fee whereby before they even ask you, what's wrong with you? Are you having a fever? Are you having bleeding? They will first take about $130 cash from you, which have to be paid by next. So if you don't have this amount of 100 plus cash, you can't go to Singapore Hospital at all. Because this is the first set of money they will take before you can be registered. And if you are not registered, they will just refuse to see you.
Now, Tean, you talk about the change in the criteria for subsidy in public healthcare institutions. Actually, this may be better for people like Anhui. You see, previously, the subsidy was based on the patient's income. Now, it's based on the patient's household per capita income and the house that they stay in. So if the house annual value is 13,000 and above, then they may be affected. So Hanimi, this may be good for you.
Okay,
because
this
you
is
stay HDB, you have so many people in the house, 3 children plus husband, right?
No, so this is a propaganda that the government has came up with. So the government said that, we are going to help people. If your income is 4,000 and below, we will just help you. You can try and apply even if your income exceeds. This is what they wrote on the ComCare website. But this is not the truth and the situation that is happening in Singapore right now. In fact, if this is happening, right, and they're really giving out groceries voucher, all these people don't have to go and steal. Look at all the crime rate that's happening in Singapore. What are people stealing? They are not stealing like gold bars. They are stealing groceries. So this means people are so hungry, they have no food on the table, they just resort to stealing groceries. And how do you apply for this? They say, it's per capita. But do you know that it is per capita on the past 12 months? And not only that, this also includes bonuses and employer CPF contribution, which means they are taking the consideration of the money that is inside your CPF before giving you handouts that will help to assist your family to tide off this difficult financial period. Let's say, for example, a family that has been living quite decently have a savings of about 6 months, okay? The main breadwinner lost his or her job. After this person loses his or her job, they will probably have enough savings to tide for the next 6 months. But because this person is maybe having a salary of, let's say, HDB ceiling is at 14,000. So 14,000, And finally, at the 7th month, this person start to go and look for help because they have already wiped out Okay, so this person went on to use their savings and they wiped out in the 6th month. On the 7th month, the person went on to look for financial assistance. So because they look at the past 12 months of income, right? So on the first, let's say we just take 4 months. So the first 4 months, the person probably has like more than $40,000. And then after that 6 months, no income, but they based on their savings, they use up, and then there's another like about 2 months, 1 to 2 months left. Because you have this 40,000 in the first 4 months of the 12 months calculation, this person has a family per capita income of more than $3,000 per month. So this family will not qualify for any ComCare financial assistance or whatever sort at all, because it is based on past 12 months. So a family with 6 months of savings, you after wipe out these 6 months of savings, you still don't get a job because like what was mentioned earlier on, all the jobs goes to foreigner, locals don't get a job. So in the next 6 months, what do? There are actually a lot of people selling vapes in Singapore now. And how old are these people selling apes, right? Vapes. They're actually like secondary school children selling vapes in Singapore, which is why the government is saying, okay, please return your vape, because these are school students. And where they get these resources from, their parents go overseas and bring it into Singapore. So how come this kind of situation is getting more and more common? Because they open up Telegram groups just to sell it. Just how they used to have this nasi lemak to sell sexual content, now they're selling vapes. Why? Because they're so stressed as well. Do you know that the mental health rate, whereby people are saying they are depressed, they are suicidal, this rate has increased from about 13% in 2020 to the latest report that was reported in the news, I think recently only, it is 17% in 2022-23 now. So this rate has increased. That means you walk on the street, out of 5 people, 1 of them is not being in a sane mode, which is also why people are opening train doors, people are killing each other, people are bringing eggs to school. There are students or families, parents who actually kill their own children. Like there are mothers who just jump down the flat in all sorts of areas in Singapore, like few times a month. There are fathers who actually go and kill their own children because it's so expensive to raise children, especially special needs children in Singapore. And this is the situation.
So Lim Tean and Hui Hui, you have both talked a lot about pay for this lah, pay for that lah, prices go up lah. So perhaps let's look at income now. Okay? Now today in the news, the media has a report about the jobs that are expected to be in demand in 2024, next year. Now some of these jobs are in the top category called associate professionals and technicians. Okay, so here's the number for you. In the last 22 years, for associate professionals and technicians, their real pay increased by 0.2% per annum. Lim Tean, you have any remarks on that?
Tean, you are the expert on statistics. I am not going to go into these statistics. But what I want to say is this, just so that our viewers know. For the last 11 years, Singapore has been ranked the most expensive city 9 out of the 11 years. This year, Zurich in Switzerland joined Singapore as the joint most expensive city in the world, all right? Zurich was ranked number 6 last year, but this year it jumped because of price increase in groceries and things like that. But my friends, do you know what is the average income of a Swiss person? It is more than $10,000, all right, in Singapore dollar terms. The average income of a Singaporean, all right, per capita is about $5,000 over dollars. So that Swiss is earning twice that average Singaporean, all right? Twice. But we are the most expensive. That means cost-wise, we are the equivalent of the Swiss, Do you think you can sustain that? Do you think so? All right. And so, Tean, this is my retort. All right. I know in real terms, real wages, the growth has been minuscule, has been negligible. Yeah. And there are some misleading quotes all the time. Oh, but we are one of the richest countries in the world. Yeah, but you know what that tells you? That only highlights what is the income disparity and inequality in our country. That means those in the 1% or 5% top one are earning so much more than the people at the bottom. And which is why, my friends, we are one of the most unequal societies in the world. Okay? Let's not just talk about the Americas or whatever. We are one of the most unequal societies in the world. My final point before I leave this subject. Hui Hui was talking about medical costs earlier. You know, my friends, we easily have, I think by now, $120 billion stuck in Medisave. Yeah, easily, I think. All right. You know, with that type of money, I think we can easily, through insurance schemes, properly thought out insurance schemes and all that, give universal health care to every Singaporean. But you know what? We're in a situation now where that poor old man with no work, living off his CPF monthly payouts of I do not know how much. It was 365 previously. I do not know whether it has increased to maybe closer to 400 now. Still has to pay cash when he goes, you know, for checkups or whatever, my friends. So I hope all of you realize this. You know, the PAP and the IB's narrative is always, oh, Singaporeans are so fortunate. Low tax country, very safe. You know, people in other countries don't have this benefit. I say, bonkum, all right? You go and look at the Nordic countries. Yes, their taxes may be higher. Free education, free healthcare, a lot of free things. You know, here you tout yourself as low tax, but when you add in all the indirect taxes, are you actually better off than the Nordic countries? No. In my view, you are worse off. Yeah, you are far worse off. Okay? So I leave you with those thoughts.
And the government came up with this propaganda to say that, oh, the NHS system is bad. Then they came out with this propaganda that says that a wait time at NHS for cough is about 3 hours, which is longer than what Singapore's A&E is. But you're taking a wait time for cough versus an A&E in Singapore. This is not comparing apple to apple. If let's say you are having an emergency, you are bleeding in UK hospital, you go in at the door, the moment they see you have blood, right? Within 5 minutes, someone will be there to actually, you know, do bandage or whatever on you. But in Singapore, this is not the case. You can be vomiting, you can be having bleeding, but then after you go to the hospital, they will just say, oh, you wait here first. Can you please pay the $130 before we will register you, before you get to see the nurse or the doctor? And not only that, in Singapore, it is such a stressful healthcare system, and the employees are so overworked. A lot of people just quit the job. There is a high turnover. Because of this high turnover, all the nurses, all these are not properly trained. In other countries, if you were to draw blood, there is no bruises. But in Singapore, if you were to draw blood, you have to have vaccination, injection, it is so common to have bruises. This just means our healthcare personnel, they are not well trained at all as compared to other countries. So why is this so? And by other countries, let's compare like Switzerland to Switzerland. Don't go and compare to like third world country and start saying like, oh, you know, Myanmar is having war, Thailand is having war. We are going to compare ourselves with better countries to improve. Why are you comparing yourself with bad countries? And not only that, there are internet brigades spamming comments right now saying that, oh, you all can leave Singapore. Why should we leave Singapore? If the government is unhappy, if the government is incompetent, they should quit and stop being the government. It's like, if Tan Chuan Jin can quit and step down, why can't the PAP Prime Minister? And the Prime Minister asks, why are mothers using formula milk? You don't ask why are mothers using formula milk. You ask, why are you not allowing mothers to be mothers at home? Why are you making your mothers become workers when they should be spending time with our children? If they spend time with the babies, with the children, if they are awake, they have time to cater and take care of the child's needs, they will have know how childcare abuse children. They would have know, like, every time they go back home, they pick their child up, they will say, oh, how's your day in school? You mean children and parents and mothers, they don't have time to ask this kind of questions before they go to bed? that whereby there is abuse, it has to be found out after a long period of time. Not only that, even 2-year-old girls, they get sent to kindergarten only to be molested in school in Singapore now. Is this the kind of Singapore that is called safe? Is this called peace and prosperity when people are suffering and living in poverty instead?
Talking about safety and peacefulness, let me make this comment. Singapore has not been voted the most safe country in the world. All right, I read a survey recently. Singapore is not number one. Yet it is the narrative painted by the PAP and their internet brigade all the time. And even Taman, I think, some months ago or maybe some years ago. Let me put it this way, my friends. I have lived in many countries in my life. Okay, many countries. I have even lived in a region of Indonesia which is well known as the terrorist center of Indonesia, a town called Poso in central Sulawesi. I've lived there. I've never felt unsafe. All right? People come and tell me, oh, London is unsafe. I laugh at them. Why is London more unsafe than Singapore? I have never felt that it was dangerous to go out on the streets of London to walk at night. And I used to live, in a part of London, and I used to walk from Regent's Park all the way to Tottenham Court Road to buy newspapers at night, the early morning edition papers. I never felt unsafe. All right? So let's be critical. Let's not always be taken in by this false narrative. Okay? We are not comparing a city with living in, say, Afghanistan, a war-torn country. All right? I mean, so that's the point I make. I think the trade-offs Singaporeans are asked to make for relative safety is too high. Yeah. You should not be paying so much. You should not be living in such an expensive country if the only trade-off is that we are relatively a safe society.
Hui Hui.
Hi everyone. We are making this live video because of political persecution, because the AGC want us to raise another about $11,000. So we need to raise this fund, and this is why we are making this video. There are people leaving comments saying that why are we in Singapore making all this kind of thing and we can just leave the country? Well, the thing is,
I see one comment here. Then why are you still want to stay here?
Yeah, the thing is,
hey, this is my country, all right? You have no right to tell me to leave my country, okay?
If they are the government and they are not happy being the government, then why are they still there? If you're not happy watching us, why are you still watching us? Because you know we are speaking the truth. You know we are asking questions that is critical and will make people think. Otherwise, we'll be watching your
So to this IB, I want to say I have every right and probably more right than you to stay here, okay?
And to the PAP IB, you know what? If you like your PAP minister so much, you can go look at Hui Hui. You can go and look at your Lee Cheng Hui or Cheng Li Hui or whatever, You can go and look at them. You don't have to look at me. But why are you looking at me? It's because you know that I represent the people, more than 10% of Singaporeans who are in this situation. And if you are saying that we are people who are living in poverty, then what is the government doing to help people living in poverty? If those people who are saying that, oh, single parents don't deserve help, so you are saying that single parents in Singapore, they are not allowed to buy HDB flat. So single parents deserve to be homeless in Singapore? Because of this kind of thing whereby parents are going out to work and children are staying at home, right? There is an increasing number. In fact, it was just published in the news few days ago. There are underage people getting pregnant and delivering their children as single mothers in Singapore. And this kind of situation is in the rise. Why is it in the rise? So you're saying that people who are teenagers, they are single parents, they deserve to be homeless and be left on the street. And not only that, there are people who in their 20s, they fall into depression after giving birth. So you're saying that this mother deserves to die? And there are people 30 years old at Eunos, at Budok, at Bukit Batok, at Choa Chu Kang, all this, bringing their newborn 1-year-old baby and just jump down the flat. So you're saying that these mothers deserve to die? Are you saying that if you send your child to school and your child's classmate bring an axe and start killing your child deserves to die? Are you saying that if you give birth to a daughter, your 2-year-old daughter go to school and get molested by a 50, 60-year-old cleaner, your daughter deserves it? And if your son served NS, it's like there are people asking me, I have son, plural, okay? They need to serve NS. Why don't you come up with your petition, say that, guys don't need to serve NS anymore? If guys serve NS, they get handicapped, their hands injured, their legs break, and their lives even get lost because of negligence in NS. So do the government take up this responsibility? Do the Minister for Defense step down? So what kind of government is the Singaporeans having right now? And if this government is wrong, why can't we criticize it? If they don't have the ability to take the hit in the kitchen, they get out. If they don't want to be the government, they don't want to be criticized, they can get out. They can just step down, just like Tan Chuan Jin.
Anyway, my friends, I hope that all of you will be very generous and that you will help Hui Hui raise the necessary funds so that she can clear this sum off. She was the lead litigant when we took up the judicial review case on the vaccines. All right? She volunteered, she was the lead litigant, and there were 6 of them, but the AGC has chosen to come only after her. So I do feel bad for her. I feel there is a large tinge of unfairness to ask her alone to bear the cost. I do hope that you will show your generosity and that you will help her raise this money quickly so that she will not have to spend another year trying to raise monies to clear this thing off. This has gone on for, I think, about 14 months already.
Hui Hui, you didn't go university, right? So I test your mathematics. If 22 years ago, the median pay of associate professionals and technicians was $2,900 a month, if the real increase in pay was 0.2% per annum, that means on the average every year, how many dollars did the real pay increase per month?
Maybe $10?
Actually, $5 plus.
$5. Okay.
So, in Tean, now, can you imagine as the associate professional and technician, in the last 22 years, based on the median pay of this category 22 years ago, you had an average real pay increase of $5 plus a month, $5 plus per year.
You see, I do not know what to say to all of that, all right? In England, they have a minister called the Minister for Levelling Up. It is to try and ameliorate inequality, all right? Bring people up, lift people up. That's why they call levelling up. I think we must have something like that in a new government in Singapore. This government doesn't care. It pays only lip service to inequality. In fact, a few years ago, Josephine Teo was quoted as saying that inequality by itself was not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, it was evidence that the system worked. But, my friends, the sad fact is that over the last 2 decades, the real income of many Singaporeans, if you are the middle income and below, it has declined. All right? I'm not talking about the top 5%, 10% who have done very well. And that is why a lot of statistics show Singapore as one of the richest countries in the world. Yes, it is because of these very high incomes of this top 5, 10%. But then you start to realize, I think I was so shocked when I read some statistics Tean produced for me last year. I think about 30 to 35% of our working population, correct me if I'm wrong, Tean, take home less than $2,400 a month. All right, then, but that was just a year ago, okay? How can we be a first world nation when 35% of our workforce take home less than $2,400 a month? That average Swiss is earning $10,000, all right? Our average wage here, all right, when you take everyone combined, is $5,000 over dollars. I remind people again, okay?
Hui Hui, are you classified as a PMET or non-PMET?
Non-PMET.
Oh, because you're not professional manager, engineer, or technician, you're non-PMET. Okay. Now, you heard Lin Tan talk about that the associate professional and technicians had a real pay increase of 0.2% in the last 22 years per annum, right? So you non-PMET. You know how much was the real pay increase in the same period in the 22
Negative?
years? No lah, not negative lah, positive lah. Make a guess lah.
0.1,
See, you hit it on the nail, okay? So, for non-PMETs,
which is $2,
actually $1 plus.
less than a dollar.
Okay.
Or less than $2.
The real pay increase was 0.1% per annum in the last 22 years. So, the median pay of non-PMETs 22 years ago was $1,700 a month. So at 0.1% real increase per annum, it means on the average, the real pay increase was only about $1.70 a year, okay, for the last 22 years.
I honestly, I take my hat off to many Singaporeans because given all these declining real wages, again, I do not know how people have managed to survive, especially given, you know, the massive increase in the last 3 years. I mean, look at the chart posted by Straits Times yesterday. Poultry, fish, a lot of food items. The inflation has been 12, 13, 14%. And when you talk about a real wage increase of what, 0.22%, I mean, hey, the maths don't add up, all right? The maths don't add up, okay?
Now, Hui Hui, do you contribute to MediSave?
No.
Why?
Because you only contribute to MediSave if you are self-employed. So I didn't say that I'm self-employed. I say that I'm a mother.
Anyway, you're working also, you have to contribute MediSave. Anyway, Lim Tian, you mentioned something very interesting. You said that there are about $120 billion in the all the MediSave account balances.
Correct.
Okay. So if you look at the cash flow, right? The cash flow in every year is
exceeds the cash flow out, I would think, or they are equivalent.
Yeah, probably quite close to each other.
Because I think we have worked this out. The cash flow in is about 10 billion, let's say.
Yes, the contribution to MediSave every year.
To MediSave is about 10 billion. The
billion,
contribution to MediSave every year is about 10 billion.
Yeah.
And then when you add in the interest element, it's about another, let's say, 3 to 4 billion.
4 5 billion.
5 billion. So really, the government is hardly needing to spend on medical costs, which is about 14, 15 billion a year, right? So we came to the conclusion, really, this government is not having to spend any money on medical.
Yes, I think you're right, because the inflows are probably almost about the same as the outflows, you know, maybe a bit less than the outflows. By outflows, we mean government spending on the healthcare and withdrawals from the MediSave accounts. Okay.
Okay, the Internet Brigade has just left a comment. Okay, one of the comments that strike that they like each other's comments, so it's that trending on top, and we can all see is that it is a global problem. So let's say if this is really a global problem, right, whereby everybody is facing this issue, then let's bring another thing that everybody is facing, which is a lot of lawyers, when they actually need to get their license, there is only one insurance company that the lawyers can go to. And if all the lawyers can only go to this particular insurance company, and during this period of time, they are uncontactable, and all the lawyers cannot look for people to get their license approved, and yet the government purposely persecute one person, is it considered political persecution?
Hui Hui, who are you talking about?
No, I was just responding to the Internet Brigade. So the Internet Brigade starts to say like this is a global problem. There are so many things that everybody face the same problem. But in Singapore, people face it worse. So why are Singaporeans face it worse? It's because we have a government that is very greedy. And Singapore is also the only country whereby the government earns profit from our housing, healthcare, and our pension system.
I want to bring one other point up, okay? Hui Hui. Someone left a fantastic comment on one of my posts yesterday. You know, Singapore, what is our population? 6 million, right? England, what's the population in England? 67 million. So we are not even 1/10 of the population of England, yeah? Singapore now, we are having a carbon tax already, right, Zihian?
Yes.
Okay. England will not have a carbon tax until 2027. You think for a small dot like us, we are going to influence all this greenhouse thing in the world massively? Why is it that England, with 10 times, more than 10 times our population, and England, is a very environmentally conscious country, okay? It wants to have, although now I think they have pushed back the time limit. I think previously they wanted to have non-fossil fuel cars by 2030 or 2035. That may have been pushed back now. In Singapore, I don't hear that, all right? I don't hear that. There is no target for us to get rid of fossil fuel cars and only have EVs, yeah? But you know what? The government decides that we must have a carbon tax. And who gets this carbon tax? It's the government, right? At the end of the day. So I have to agree with what Hui Hui says. This is a government that is scratching its head all the time, ways of how to make money off its citizens, even though we are in the worst cost of living crisis in more than a generation. Okay?
Talking about being green, right? So recently there was one advertisement by someone who is very good at doing government propaganda. So this particular advertisement about being green is to turn on your aircon got taken down. Okay? And being green, how does turning on an aircon is being green? And does it mean that a lot of Singaporeans actually have aircon in their house? The answer is those people who are living in poverty, they don't get aircon. And if you live in rental flat, right, I think you're only allowed portable aircon because you're not allowed to do anything that is permanent in the house, because you need to renew your lease every month or every few months or every year or 2 years, something like that. So you cannot make any permanent modification to the house. So these people, they don't have aircons at all. So why is the government having this kind of advertisement and propaganda? Of course, you can say it's being taken down. Then this leads to another question. Every time we go out now, we need to pay 5 cents because we need to take the plastic bag. And people are now saying this 5 cents really helps the environment, but in the end, right, after that, because of this 5 cent thing, people cut down on all their plastic bag usage. People start to just throw their rubbish down the chute, and people are saying that the entire neighborhood is getting dirty. So why is the neighborhood getting dirty? Because there is no plastic bag. And why are people not buying plastic bag? Because it costs 5 cents. And then it goes down to another point. In other countries, people have like refillable water bottle, and daily groceries are at a discounted rate because government absorb the cost. Because the government makes sure that people go home, they have their groceries to eat. They don't need to steal for food. And unless you're so poor, you get some groceries voucher. The government ensures that people are taken care of their fare. And yet in Singapore, people are committing crimes. Tax those companies. They are using plastic containers instead. Why don't the government tax the government's own propaganda machinery, whereby they distribute plastic bags everywhere? They distribute plastic pens. Why distribute that? Why not environmental friendly pen? Why not you start giving pen refills? And then after that, you take care of children's stationery needs. Next, they have all kinds of events, right, whereby they have plastic cups, they have plastic bottles, they give out plastic bags, plastic pins, and even plastic containers just to put all their items inside. These are all wastage of resources. So instead of taxing their own government resources and their own government organization, they are putting all this blame on consumers like basic Singaporeans like us, making us pay this 5 cents. So every day you go out, you need to pay, like, let's say you buy 4 items, you need to pay 20 cents a day. 1 week you need to pay $1. So every Singaporean, there's millions of dollars given to all these organizations. So does it reduce the carbon footprint in Singapore? And what is the percentage decrease? Why don't the government use these resources against companies? Why are you using it against Singaporeans?
You know, my final on this green agenda. If we really are serious about being green, okay, we will not be cutting down so much of our forests to build homes, all right? Going green means you do not have to increase the population the crazy way we are doing it. You know, you don't have to. I made some post some time ago. I think from 1991 or 1999, I can't quite remember now. Do you know that the population of Singapore has increased by over 40%? 40%. That to me is just astounding. And that to me, you know, it must be one of the greatest increase in population in history. in the world. All right. And so now, they're building flats, all right, frantically. Yeah. They're chopping down forests. I do not know what Dover forest, beach forest, they are going to clear it out. All right. And, as a result of this concretization of our country, what do we get? We get floods. Yeah. Whenever it rains hard now, you get floods. It's not what Grace Fu or the other ministers say is a once in a 50-year phenomenon. No, I don't think that the rains have become heavier. All right. But even yesterday when I was walking home, there was a construction site on the way. All right. I could see that just outside the construction site, the side roads were all flooded because it was raining. And it wasn't heavy rain. But my friends, this is what you are going to face in the coming years and decades, okay? If we do not change tack, increasing population, your HDB is going to get smaller and smaller, MRT is going to get more and more crowded. Everywhere you go, you are going to feel that you're going to feel claustrophobic. Yeah? You really want to go green? I'm telling you, you stop at 6 million now. You don't increase the population anymore. Every Singaporean will be better off. You are not going to be importing cheap labor. Everybody moves up the value chain, all right? And maybe one day, we can catch up with the Swiss wages and not be 50% of what that Swiss is earning.
Hui Hui, Lim Tian talk about population increase. Do you know what is the percentage of the population in Singapore that is non-Singaporean, meaning foreigners and PRs?
About half.
More than half.
Not so much. 39% of the population are foreigners and PRs. In other words, 61% are citizens. Now,
Yeah, I got that figure wrong. I think for workers, the foreigners now have exceeded 50%.
Yes, for workers who are non-native Singaporeans,
Non-native,
meaning foreign workers, PRs, and new citizen workers, is about half. Okay, so
Yeah.
it's almost time's up now, and I just want to ask one more statistic, which Lim Tian talked about: carbon tax increase. In 2 days' time, the carbon tax is going up, right? So, Hui Hui, how many times is the carbon tax going up in 2 days?
Oh, that I didn't read. I only know electricity is going to go
Okay,
up.
the
5%.
carbon tax now is $5. Okay, 2 days later is $25.
Yes, 25. I
Right.
thought it was
That's 5
27.
times.
That is 5
And-
times.
5 times.
In future years, is expected to continue to increase, has been announced, to $50 to $80. Of course, there is many
Oh no,
years
wait.
later.
Water is going to increase as well. Water is going to increase 50 cents. So that is about a 80% increase, something like that. It is going to increase 50 cents. Okay, so water is going to increase 50 cents, and the previous increase was 30 cents in 2017. It is going to increase 50 cents, which is about 20% increase or 18% increase. They try to round the number. Then it will make it more than $3, $3 plus, almost $3.50. So this is what's going to happen. So every time we go to the toilet, we wash our hands before we have our meal, we flush down the toilet, we are flushing money down. And this kind of water price increase, right, is to the government. You think what? The government is going to say that, oh, your SSCC increase is because of the cleaner, and your water tax increase because you're going to pay Malaysia more? No, this is not the case at all. In fact, Singapore currency is now stronger against Malaysia ringgit. Our water price should go down, not go up.
So, the time is almost up for today's live with Hui Hui and Lim Tian. Final words from each of you. Lim Tian first.
I repeat what I said at the very outset. I wish all of you a very happy new year. I hope that the new year will be better for all Singaporeans. But sad to say, I doubt so. I don't want to be that damn blanket, but I have to be realistic and see that the prospects for next year are good.
Hui Hui?
So the AGC said that they watch all our live video. Then what we are going to say is that next year I will need to bring my children to school Monday to Friday. So if I ever need to go to court, I will have to apply to school. I will have to go to the so there is this something that the government, the Ministry of Education came up with called Parent Gateway, and all the parents are inside. So I have to declare inside the group chat to all the parents and all the teachers and all the admin staff, whatever. I will have to say like, oh, you know what? I will not be bringing my child to school tomorrow because the AGC has summoned me to court. Then everybody will know who I am, just like how the entire neighborhood knows who I am because of whatever the government should know what happened because the case went to court as well. So yeah, this is the situation right now. If the AGC really wants me to go to court, then yeah.
I hope all of you reach out to your friends, your family members, help us raise this money, clear off Hui Hui's obligations to the AGC. All right? The AGC is pressing her for all this, even though not a single lawyer every single lawyer in the AGC is paid for by taxpayers' money. All right? But they are pressuring her for this $10,000, $11,000. Let us help her clear off so that she does not have to be burdened with it for another year. She does not have to bring her children to court, which is a hostile environment. It is no place to bring children. So I implore you to help her on this matter. Thank you very much.
Thank you. See you. Bye.
Bye-bye.